What's good? So, I got done watching the very first episode of BLEACH, 1,000-Year Blood War, and I gotta make a few corrections from my last video. In my last video, I thought that, if BLEACH gets all the episodes, put out, right, and we have to wait however long it takes for the whole series to be done, right, and it doesn't get simulcasted, the series is going to die as a whole. Now that I've, got done watching the first episode, I'm super hyped. I'm so excited to see what else is, going to be put out. Because, it's been a while since I've last read the 1,000-Year Blood War chapters. So all of this is kind of pretty new to me. And I'm so glad that I'm wrong. Alright, Hulu, if you look it up, I'll even look it up right now. Hulu is simulcasting 1,000-Year Blood War. I'm not too sure about Disney Plus. I'm not too sure about ESPN. They probably are as well. I don't know. But as far as I know, Hulu got the first episode. And I'm so happy that they're not mass releasing this show. Because if they are, that's terrible. But now that they're not and we know it, like earlier on, that Viz Media was like, hey, Bleach is going to be, simulcasted. And I was like, okay, great. But you didn't tell us what time, what date, and all that stuff. So I'm going to take your word with a grain of salt, and we're going to see. But now that I've seen, I'm happy that I'm wrong. All right? The first episode of Bleach was absolutely amazing. All right? They got you hooked in the very first 10 minutes of the show because that really tends to be the majority of people's, attention span. It's like, I think it was like 8 to 10 minutes is like the average attention span of a person before they click off of the video or something like that. And so all this is absolutely amazing. A nostalgia trip, a freaking just trip down memory lane at the end of the episode. But yeah, if you haven't seen 1,000-Year Blood War, go watch it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And when I say pretty good, you gotta watch it. But of course, if you haven't really caught up, from the older, anime, get caught up. Come on. Let's kind of talk about, a little bit about, what happens in the episode, of course. Oh yeah, also I came to kind of not really an epiphany, but I kind of saw the Japan has a lot of Japan has a lot of kind of references to a lot of German stuff, right? And you know where I'm getting to. And so of course the Quincy's, right? They're basically kind of like the Nazis in a way. But I wouldn't say they go that far, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if it's debatable or not, but yeah, that's kind of how I see them at the moment, especially with just how they kind of eradicated an entire village. That's kind of my guess, but yeah, I don't really remember all that happens in the manga because it's been a while. It's been a whole decade since the last episode of Bleach, the original Bleach. But yeah, so also it's been been 2016 was when the manga ended. So yeah, it's been another 6 years. Yeah, it's been another 6 years, and that's a long time, especially for me. But yeah, so in the first episode, of course, we get to see everybody. We get introduced to these two new kid Soul Reapers. And here's the thing, right? You're in a town that the majority of a lot of crap happened, and you put these two little weak kids into the town. What do you expect is going to happen? They're going to get the absolute crap beat out of them by hollows, and they most likely dead, all right? They're going to become past tense and even more, all right? Because they're already dead, and they're becoming even more past tense because they're Soul Reapers, right? And so the exact same thing happens as I kind of explained it, right? The kids get beat the hell out of, and pretty much we get into a little bit of a bloody 1,000-Year War, right? 1,000-Year Blood War, right? Right off the bat, we're like, this is serious. We're gonna get some blood. People in the whole village disappeared. All the Soul Reapers, they pretty much the Soul Society got infiltrated and all that stuff. That kind of happens later on in the episode. But of course, let's kind of go back into the beginning, and then we meet We get to see again, meet again, hear again, Ichigo, Sato, or is it Chad in the English version? The Quincy guy, I forgot his name. He's a cool character, but I don't know why I never really bothered to remember his name. And then Orihime, right? Also, not to like kill the immersion, but there's a scene where also the art and animation is absolutely amazing, except for some parts I'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, there's a part in the very first like 10 minutes of the show where like Sato punches a bunch of hollows into a building, and like the lights are on in the building, right? And I'm like, I think you really just like made a whole bunch of people just become past tense, right? And I don't think they noticed that. It's like in a Marvel movie when they destroy all the buildings and everything, and you're like, how many people were in that building, and how many people, went kaput, like when that happened. So not to kill the immersion, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about at some points in the show. But yeah, we get to see Ichigo, Bankai, and all that stuff. Absolutely amazing. His new look. I'm pretty sure I said in my last video about Bleach that if you haven't seen or know the reason why Bleach is like has his whole new look and all that, you kind of want to go back and read the manga and all that. I don't really specifically remember what I said, but yeah, you might want to go back and read the manga and all that stuff to get caught up. It shouldn't take too long though. But yeah, so all that awesomeness, you get hooked in, you get to hear the music of, whenever Ichigo goes Bankai, the really awesome OST, whatever, that's in the background whenever Ichigo goes Bankai. And then, of course, I also forgot to record this part. I forgot to even say it, because I was just hyping over freaking Bleach for a while. But to talk about a little bit about the animation and all that stuff. So, the animation is great, except for some of the 3D. The 3D animation is kind of hit or miss for me. I don't really have that good of an eye for animation, but I did notice some 3D animation from the kind of cityscape. You kind of see the whole city at night. A little bit of, a little bit 3D because you can kind of notice it because of how like Japanese animation is. They tend to smooth out textures. They don't really put in textures all that well for some reason. But the city is kind of like, 3D in a way. There's some hollows that you will see in the fight that are 3D. And for the most part, I thought that, hey, the way how they do 3D animation most of the time, they tend to reuse animations. So, if not all the hollows are all different, because it's kind of how they are, it's going to be a bit, bad, right? But gladly, they're all different, and they all look, they all look very hollowy and all that stuff, because all hollows come in different shapes and sizes and all that, right? And so that was great. But of course, I don't know why, but they kind of interwoven 3D animation and then the 2D drawings and animation into the show. I don't know. Are they saving money here and there, or are they spending more money here and there? I'm not too sure. But for the most part, the 3D animation, it was not terrible. It was okay. They did have some 3D models with like 2D overlays, and most people tend to not like it. For me, my eye for art is kind of dead here and there sometimes, so I didn't think it was too bad. But of course, there's some like smooth textures and all that I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, that's about it. Whenever they kind of switched the hollows from 3D animations, because there was just a bunch of them moving, and I think that they just didn't want to spend the time to kind of draw all the hollows moving and everything, so they just kind of went for 3D animation just to make it easier for them, which is fine. And then when they had a scene where all the hollows were just kind of standing there and then they just reacting, then they kind of made it into a 2D drawing. It's fine. It's not terrible, but yeah, I just wanted to inject this part into the video. So yeah, back to the video. After we get hooked in, we get to meet the Quincy's, and kind of just see how, you know, very Nazi-ish they are. And yeah, absolutely amazing. We get to see the setup, we get to see a bit of the execution. I don't know if you guys can hear the airplane that's flying overhead right now, but yeah, so the very first episode, pretty freaking good. And of course, you know, the setup and everything too. Also, the Quincy's are surprisingly really strong. One of the things that I noticed in the show is the power scaling. I'm not really understanding the power scaling at the moment. Like, if you read through the ending of Bleach and of course all the other stuff, you know that the main guy at the end, like, he's very powerful, right? And we also know that Ichigo, you know, he's like a chimera, right? So of course he's going to be strong. But the power scaling, kind of not really understanding it at the moment. We get the 13 captains because, you know, 13 up, you get the kind of power scaling. In a sense, even though some captains have shown that they're stronger than they actually are, kind of like Kenpachi. I don't really get it at the moment. I don't remember. But yeah, so if you guys understand the power scaling of Bleach, yo, comment down below because I don't remember. But yeah, so that was great. That was awesome. And then the last 4 minutes of the ending was a trip down memory lane from just pretty much clips from like the entire first show of Bleach, kind of just to get you nostalgic, reminiscing and all that stuff. So yeah, you know what? That was a great show. That was a great first episode. It was so awesome, so hype. I love it. You love to see it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm glad that I'm wrong about simulcasting, because if they are going to continue to release episode by episode, that'll be great. I love to see the community, even though a lot of anime fandoms tend to be very toxic. Like you know, like My Hero, you people, you little crazy. Don't really like you people sometimes. Naruto fandom, kind of the same way. Dragon Ball Z fandom, kind of the same way. But yeah, so that's about it. That was a great episode, though. Jesus, that was great. So if you liked what I had to say or whatever, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.